Okay, now must be give this explanation to tell you the spare parts for each, the function for each spare part, the name and the function. So the DTF printer go with two sides, two parts. One is the top printer, and then it's the powder processing system. So when we go to the front of the powder processing system, we can see it has the power cable for the powder processing system and the release system. Take up the paper release film take up system, and also it have two locks from left and right sides. It can be moved really. So this is the film take up device, and it's automatically detecting for the speed. And here is the waste air exhausting tube. When we open it, on inside is the heating tube, electronic heating tube system to bake in the hot melt powder. So this is the front of the powder processing system. Okay, when we go to the right side of the powder processing system, here is a plug. This plug is for load the power for the paper take-up device. So we must connect this cable plug with this plug. And this is the general power plug here. So please do not connect the wrong position. This is for general power plug, the long one. The short one is to power the power from here to the take-up device. And here is the control panel for the powder processing system. This is the emergency power switch. When we push down, then all the system will no electricity, cut down the electricity, cut down the power for the system. And when we load it, push down for cut down and load it, and automatic take out is for release, for reboot, open the power. And it's for dusting speed. The speed from the dusting system. You can adjust the speed from small to middle. And here's for shaking. The shaking the powder, shaking the film. Also can adjust the speed. And here is the temp controller for the baking system inside. And here is the general power switch. Power on for open it. And here's the dusting switch to spray the powder to the film at the front. And here's for shaking switch to shaking the waste balance melt powder on the film. And here is for heating cooling, the baking device switch. So this is the control panel for the powder processing system. When we go to the bottom of the front, right front, we can see here is a dish. This dish is to hold the waste hot melt powder to here. Then when it's full, then we take it out and put it back to the system for recycle using. So this is the dish for hold the waste hot melt powder from the inside powder system for recycle. Okay, when we go to the top of the powder processing system, we can see here is a dusting area to make the hot melt powder spray on the film. And inside, at the down position of the powder system, here is a sensor to detect the film coming, then go to shaking and take up. And here is the checking roller. So this is the top cover, top position of the powder processing system. After power on the machine, here must be rolling, working, and this checking system also must be rolling system working, and the baking process, the baking system must be working. Okay, now we start to learn the spare parts function of the printer. So this is the front of the printer. This is the acrylic cover. When we open the acrylic cover, we can see here some spare parts. So first, this is the aluminum keyer for the top printer. And here's the inker film. And the inker film, we must be careful, cannot scratch it or make it dirty without any ink spray on the surface or any dust. Also must keep it clean without scratched by anything. And also the inker film must be stay at the middle of the sensor inside at the bottom of the carriage. There's the inker sensor. The inker sensor must be stay at the middle of the inker film without scratch each side, any position. Then remove freely of the inker sensor. And here's the carriage belt to drive the carriage moving. And here's the liner rail to get the printer start high-speed printing. At the downside, here's the pinch roller to feed the film to the forward. And here's the 1Q table to suck. The 1Q file will be working to suck the film flat without scratch print head. And here is the film pinch clips. We can move the clips to the top of the film to prevent the film bending for backside. Also, before we load the film, we must be sure the edge of the film must be struck with the edge of the table without bending or wrong position. After we adjust the position, then we move the clips to the front, to the top of the film to be sure it's not scratched, not bending up. Make it flat without bending the film. Move a little bit to load the film. To be sure the pinch tips is on the surface of the film. If it's really tightened, so we can use the screwdriver to loosen a little bit for the four screw. Then we can move the front, move to the left of the film to be sure the film not bending up to scratch print head during printing. And all the pinch roller is clean without any scratch. And also when we go to the carriage here, when we move out the carriage, we can see here is the cap station. Two cap stations, one for the front, one is for color print head. This is for color print head, and this is for wet print head. Color at the front, the wet at this side. And this, when we open up the cover, we can see here have pumps, two pumps to pump the waste ink out. For white and for color, two pumps for cleaning. And also this is the up-down motion system for the cap station. This is the manually knob to move the cap station up-down. So before we power on the machine, we need to moving down to release and lock the carriage. And at the back side here is the waste ink tank. It have two waste ink tuber connect to the waste ink tank here. And when it's full, we need to take it out and release the waste ink when it's full. Doing using every day after print, we need to clean it. And at the back side here is the wet ink circulation pump. At the back side, have two tubes coming out. At the top is the driver. It's the motor for X-axis. So here's the cap station. When we go to the right back side of the printer, we can see the bottom is the wet ink box, wet ink circulation and checking steering box. Here have the steering motor checking for checking, and also have a circulation tuber, one for output, one for input, and there is the cover. Then on the top here is the color ink tank. But here, when we open the cover, we can see here have some color marks, black, yellow, cyan, magenta from the tank. This ink flow is different with the ink damper. Later, we must be teach you how to install the correct ink to the ink damper, to the print head. So you just load ink as here. And here the ink not load too much, about load to 1/4 of the total volume. And after you load ink, we must open the cover. We cannot close. We must open the cover for using. And after using, we block it. So please remember, we must open the switch for using. Otherwise, the ink cannot go to the print head. So this is the ink tank. Side here is the Ethernet cable to connect with the printer with the computer. It's the Ethernet cable, not the USB cable. And it's the power cable, general power cable plug here. And here have a switch to power off and power on. 0 is for off, 1 is for open. Okay, when we go to the top, here is the control panel at the left top of the printer. Here is the LCD screen, and here is some buttons to control the carriage and the film. The up is for load backward the film, to move the film to backside, and down is for load the film to forward, and right is to move the carriage to home position, and left is to move the carriage, the print head to left. Here's some setting. We don't need to use it. Here's for engineer using. When we go to the left, we can see here is the wet ink steering knob, adjust the system. We can adjust, we can switch off and load to adjust the speed for the wet ink checking system to prevent the wet ink stuttering. And here is for the wet ink circulation speed and switch adjust. We can also switch off and switch on and adjust the speed for the wet ink circulation setting. When we go to the front, we can see here is the general power switch but the imaging stop button. Push down is for cut down the power for the printer. And when we load it by the clockwise direction, then it's move up, is to release, to reboot, to power supply the print again. So when you got some dangerous or emergency issue, you just push down to cut down the printer power and load it take up is for release, give the power again. So this is the general power switch for the printer.